Thanks very much and good evening everybody. Can Europe lead the way on climate change? I think Europe has to lead the way on climate change. For one reason, it has taken a leadership position to date. I think it's very welcome that Barack Obama and his administration now seem to be taking the issue of climate change seriously, and obviously Australia and the change in the last couple of years of their premiership means that there's more of a sense now that the global community is taking the issue of climate change seriously. But Europe is at a significant, or has a head start. It has a emissions trading system, it has systems of decision making internally that allow it to get its member states to sign up to climate change targets. And so I think Europe is in a position and should and must provide leadership on the issue of climate change. What can it do? I suppose first of all it needs to provide international advocacy around the Copenhagen summit to make sure that an ambitious and wide-ranging global climate agreement is reached in Copenhagen. Secondly, it has to lead by example, and that means signing up. It has already produced an integrated climate and energy package where member states, the European Union as a whole, has agreed to cut its emissions by 20%. Now it will now have to look at how individual member states are going to do that, and obviously there's difficulties around that. There's a lot of resistance, and people, as we all know, it's easy for countries to sign up to targets and not to fulfil them. So the issue of compliance is an important one, and the European Union will have to look at that. But it is leading by example and has indicated that if at Copenhagen other developed countries are willing to do so, it will actually agree to 30% reductions in its emissions if other developing countries, or developed countries I should say, come on board and take on similar commitments. Also, the European Union has to be one of the partners that will fund adaptation measures in developing countries, because it's very clear that there is a need for this. Many of the developing countries are suffering in a way that developed countries as yet aren't from the effects of climate change. It's estimated that there's about 150,000 deaths a year already due to climate change. About 5 million illnesses every year are directly due to climate change. So the European Union has to do this. It has to be part of developing mechanisms, innovative mechanisms at an international level, a global cap and trade system and a global carbon market. It has to develop innovative policies itself within the European Union, and I would say that the Green New Deal that the European Green Party is proposing is part of that, making the European economy as energy efficient and low carbon as possible. And lastly, it has to raise public awareness, and a lot of its communication should be about that. Thanks.
Thanks, Deirdre.